I wouldn't have believed someone saying to me, "You're going to be fine. You're going to give it a, you're going to be fine. You're grand. You pull yourself out of it." And I was kind of waiting for it to happen, and I'm like, "It's not happening. It's not going to work. You're just, it's going to be like this forever." And I don't know what I was expecting, but I've done it in all my stages in life where I've been in a little kind of funk, or I've been in a little bit of like depression or whatever, and I've been waiting for things to change, to be like, okay, life is getting better. And I think the thing that turned my life around for good and got me out of that kind of situation was, it's not going to change itself.
Friend, here's something I don't know if you know. While the podcast was a thought of mine for a long time, Thinking of Me absolutely could not be doing this without our very own Wizard of Oz, Kyle, at Goodnight Podcasting Solutions. Kyle's turnaround time, dedication and level of service means that I never have to second guess or worry about the level of support in getting our messaging out to you. If you're curious as to starting your own podcast, or just want to see how it might spread your message, reach out to Kyle at kylegoodnight.com or check our show notes. I mean it when I say that we couldn't be doing this without him. Hello, and welcome to today's episode of the Thinking of Me podcast, where we have Saoirse Cleary with us of Halo Luxury Lace Wigs and the Aesthetic Lounge. And Saoirse is actually an old friend from school who reconnected at the end of last summer, loosely, when Thinking of Me was beginning to grow first. And it's always really nice when you have a supporter, but it's also really nice when you catch up with someone who has made serious progress in school. And I didn't even realise some of Saoirse's journey that had happened and been taking place in the decade that it's been since secondary school days. And I'll allow her to really tell her story today. But for anyone listening, if you want to check out our show notes and follow Saoirse's social media pages and check out haloluxurylacewigs.com if this is something that resonates with you, because Saoirse's journey is so inspiring for other women, but particularly other young women who, as I say, I know from school, and I know the transformation that it can take to say, I'm doing this and I'm capable of doing this to help somebody else. So I'll allow Saoirse to really get into the nitty gritty of what I mean by that. And Saoirse, you're so welcome on today, and I'm really grateful that this is finally happening. I'm excited to have everyone hear your story. So if you want to introduce yourself and let us know where things are at.
Thanks, Lauren, and thank you so much for having me on today. It's absolutely a pleasure to be asked to do something like this. I'm still blown away when I get asked to do things like this, because, as I said before, and I say to everyone else, I don't see myself as overly inspirational to anyone, but I suppose everyone looking out on an outside perspective seems to. But yeah, had you told me this, that like I'd be in this situation and talking on these things, certainly in school, but even like a couple of months ago, I would have said no, no way. But it just goes to show you how much your confidence can grow in like such a short, I suppose a decade is not short, but even up to recently, like how much and how quickly like everything is changing. But yeah, no, basically, I was fine the whole way through school when you knew me, nothing ever out of place, not a hair or anything. And then out of nowhere, I was, I think, 19 or 20. I would have been 20 because Brandon actually noticed a little patch on the back of my head, and I'd often wear my hair up like this all the time, so he kept saying, "You've a bald patch," and I was like, I don't, like, I never saw it. So he kept saying, "No, you do," and I was like, kind of brushing them off. And next thing, I used to get extensions a lot, and they were saying, "You've got little patches in the back of your head," and I was like, "They'll be fine, like just throw it in, whatever." And it took me a little while to realize, like, there was a lot of people saying, "Oh, you've got little patches there." So I just kept ignoring them, and then I got one kind of here where I couldn't ignore it, and showed it to my mum. She brought me to the health shop, and they said, "Just take some biotin," and it actually grew back fairly quickly, and I was like, okay, problem solved. And then I'd say just a few months after that, I mean, it started to fall out really, really quickly. I noticed one day there was like a patch here, and when I pulled my hair back, like, there was a massive patch, and I showed my mum, and she actually got like a big shock, and she was like, "Right, we'll go to the doctor." And I ended up being diagnosed out of nowhere with alopecia areata, and he said it's likely that it was induced by stress. Now, at the time, I was kind of like, I'm not stressed. Like, if I was any more laid back, I'd be on the floor kind of thing. But I looking back, I think even now I handle stress very well, in that like a lot of people don't see me outwardly being stressed, but inside my body, like, would, even though my mind doesn't think I'm stressed, I would show like a lot of stress symptoms on the inside. And I think it was my body's reaction to stress rather than me thinking, oh my god, I'm so stressed, my hair is falling, that kind of thing. Because in that mindset at the time, it's fine. But anyway, the doctor said to me, leave it a year, it'll be fully grown back in a year, you know, it'll be fine. So I was like, okay, like, your doctor, 100%, you know what you're doing. And I just continued to fall out and fall out, and I kept going back, and he kept saying, no, just leave it, like, it'll cycle and then it'll all grow back. And I said, fine. And I went back in a year, and I was completely bald. Um, and at that point, he was like, okay, maybe it's a little bit too late to do any kind of interventions. So I was like, okay. So that was a massive adjustment, because I was like, at the time I didn't know. I know I was 20, I was old enough, but at the same time I was still a baby. Like, I always think of 20, I wouldn't think of doing my own research and stuff like that. Like, I had faith in like the doctor or whatever. And I suppose it wasn't his fault either. He was doing what he thought was right. But I found out after, had I been straight away sent to a dermatologist, they could have done more. But anyways, um, when that all fell out, then I had a few months of just that. It was just like no hair, and then my eyelashes and my eyebrows and everything started to fall out too. And honestly, I found that more of an adjustment than my hair, because I would have been a big lash and brow girl. And like, even now, like, they have come back since, but even putting on like a face makeup, you couldn't do it without putting a strip lash on. And strip lashes are my enemy. Like, I used to hate it, so I used to not wear makeup. So in the space of like, I'd say 6 months, I went from, like, you know, get my hair done, my lashes, my brows, wearing makeup, and it completely flipped on its head, where I never wore makeup because I couldn't put on strip lashes, right? And I never went out without a hat or a hairband, because like I had barely any hair or had no hair. And I couldn't draw on my eyelashes or my eyebrows or anything. So it was just like, I felt like a completely different person in such a space of time, and it was a massive, massive adjustment. Um, and then, like, obviously everything, like, so my like leg hair and all went, and I would always I'd be the type of person to make light of a situation, and for the longest time I couldn't, like, and I think that was what a lot of people noticed. It's like I'd always find the silver lining of something, and I just was in such a slump. And eventually, when I got used to it, I used to say, oh sure, like, isn't it great, I've no leg hair, I don't have to shave, or isn't it great, like, I don't have any hair on my arm, doesn't my tan go on so nice, and stuff like that. But it took me a long time to to get to that stage. And like, I was terrified, like, Brandon, like, my boyfriend, was going to leave me, and I was like, I'm bald now, like, what am I gonna, what is my life going to look like from now on? And yeah, it took me a long, long time, and I, up until like very recently, still, like, I was hiding the fact that I had alopecia. I was so embarrassed. There wasn't a lot of, like, now you see a lot of influencers, like the likes of like Olivia McVeigh, and someone who's like very, very outspoken about the fact that you have hair loss, whatever. But at the time there was nothing, so I felt so alone, and I was mortified, like genuinely mortified. And look back, like, there was no reason to be. But I mean, tell that to someone who's 20, 21 and has no hair and feels like you're the only person in the world who's going through that kind of situation. And it continued on like that for a long time. And I went to get my first wig, and when I left it so long, like, I held on to every strand of hair, left it so long that I was kind of panicking. So I was like, I need something. And I went into a place in town. Now, the lady who owns it is absolutely lovely, and it was just the brand of wig she has in was kind of for an older lady type style. And it was like, you wouldn't have had the scalp, it would have been like very, like, look like a wig. So I bought it because I was like, I need something. But at the same time, it completely knocked my confidence, because I felt like, oh my god, this looks awful. And it cycled through that, like, I got wig that time. Then like every year you kind of have to replace them depending on the wear they get. So like, I went through a good 3 or 4 years of having wigs I didn't like at all. They were horrible. And it completely then, like, knocked my confidence again. Like, I stopped going out. Um, when I lived in London, I remember, like, my housemates were having like a party, and my wig started to get itchy, so I just went to bed early because I wouldn't take it off. And it was like a lot of, like, my experiences looking back now were like affected by that even at the time I didn't realize. um and then it got to the point where I just said like something had to change, but I couldn't pull myself out of the funk I was in. And then I found out I was pregnant. And I think that was the start of when when I look back, that's the start of when like everything started to kind of flip on its head for me. First of all, my hair started growing back. So I went from having no hair at all to mental hair. It was like everywhere because it was just growing everywhere. And I was like, this, I don't know what is worse, because I was kind of used to it at that point, having no hair. But it did grow back, and I had my two kids so close together that I had my hair, full head of hair was back, all my eyebrows, all my lashes, everything was back to normal. I was like, oh, this is great. And then once I had my second baby and my hormones kind of dropped again, it started to fall out again. Now it's never gone back to the stage it was before. So like I still have hair, but I only have like, so alopecia areata would be just on your head. Alopecia universalis was everything. So I've gone back to the alopecia areata now. Like I have patchy eyebrows and stuff that never grew back fully, but so I have more hair in my head than I don't at the minute, but it's just the patches that are there, like they kind of go back. So I kind of look like I have a receding hairline, and they cycle around my head. So like I had a big patch here, that grew back, now I have a big patch here, that'll grow back, one will fall out. So instead of going through life again being like, right, I have to have my head scarves and all to go out, I said I'm just going to shave it. So I took control of it, because it was actually, it was going through cycles to get me down, and then I'd be fine again and I'd have my hair back. And I said no. So I decided I was going to shave it off, and I went into the same place, got my first wigs, the Agnes Burke hairdressers in Mullingar, and I said, just shave it. I said, take it all off. And they were like, are you sure? I was like, take it away. And I ended up donating it to the Rapunzel Foundation to make wigs for kids in Ireland. Like there was still a good amount there, but I said, just take it away. After that, I found it wasn't as hard of an adjustment, but it was, I suppose I kind of got my hopes up that it wouldn't go again. And when it did, I was like, oh, here we go again. And I was like getting used to wearing wigs again. And I was like, I can't do this thing again of always having the wigs that don't look real. So I put a lot of effort in, and the only ones I could find that looked realistic were in England. So I couldn't use any of the like financial supports and stuff that were here. So I was spending nearly £1.5 to £2 every year to get wigs, which obviously is not feasible in the long run, like unless you're absolutely like minted. So I was like, this, something has to be done. I started to look into it, and I said, there's nothing here, there's a gap here that like a lot of women, not just with alopecia, but like going through like chemotherapy, everything, like they're always forced into getting something that makes them feel worse when they should be the opposite way. And I said, I'm going to do something about it. So I decided to do my research and start getting in samples and developing my own wig brand that's created by somebody with hair loss for other people with hair loss. Because I find the wigs that I got before, they were itchy and comfortable, they weren't breathable, they were sweaty. I used to hate wearing them in the summer because my head would just be so warm. Whereas when they're made by someone who knows what it's like to wear wigs with no hair underneath, like that's the most, I think, in my opinion, that's the most important thing that can go into a wig design. And none of that was considered with the other ones that I was buying. So with the ones I make, well, I don't make them, but with the ones from my brand, that is like at the foremost. So the first thing I wanted was realism. There was nothing worse going at people looking at your hair being like, that looks, and people, and then they might even be looking at me, but because I wasn't confident in it, I was like, I don't want to wear this. So realism was the first thing. The second thing was comfort. Like I want to be able to put a wig on in the morning, leave it on all day, and not even know it's on my head. It just feels like my real hair, or it doesn't get itchy or anything like that. That was the second one, because there's nothing worse than having to take a wig off in the middle of the day and like breathe your head and then put it back on again. And then the third one was just to be able to have a bit of fun with it. So have nice colours, not just have browns and blondes, but be able to go like copper. Like I got a copper and a pink wig at one stage, and just like to reap the benefits of having wigs. So like to turn something that I always thought was like a negative into positive. Like one day I go to work and I have pink hair, the next day I could have orange. Do you know what I mean? So it was just about just completely changing the experience I had trying to get wigs, and changing it for other people. And they're given to support to people in Ireland who don't have it. So like, I'm not sure if everybody's aware, but you can get like grants towards your wigs in Ireland. So there's HSE grants, or there's Department of Social Protection grants, and they take like up to 770 or 500 euro, depending off the cost of your wig. And if you're importing those in from England, which I know a lot of people do, and a lot of people used to text me and be like, where'd you get them from? England? Oh, I must get them from there. You can't use those. And then you're paying like massive customs fees. Like if you're importing in something that's £1.5 grand, £2 grand, like you'd imagine the fees on top of that. So that's the little light bulb idea I had for my wig brand.
Saoirse,
And
can
then
I
it
jump
just,
in on
yeah,
all of that? Because I think what I really hear there is, as you say, from being so isolated as this is something that's happened, obviously to you at such a young age, and 20 is a baby. 20 is,
yeah, I would say so.
yeah, such a baby. To losing that part of yourself, that and it is. There's no way of saying it other than it is what it is. When something like that happens, you do lose, who you are really. And
Yeah, 100%.
and when that happens at such a young age, and for anyone listening, whether if this is you and going through a similar journey as Saoirse, where this has happened or is happening right now, whatever age of life it happens at, the thing is you decided to take control of it, as you say, and you decided, okay, something has to change here. And in doing that, and now, as you say, finding all the ways to enhance that, not only control it, but now enhance it for other people. What kind of feedback do you get from people who do purchase your wigs and, maybe can see the difference of the other brands and types that, you had before, maybe if they've switched from ones over to you? What kind of feedback do you get? Or are people kind of coming to you for the first time, or who are you working with really?
So I've had a few, because it's only brand new, I haven't gotten like a load of feedback on, say, wig wear and how they're out, like into the future past the purchase, if you get what I mean. But like, I have had a good few people which I wasn't sure if I would, because I was like myself, I think it's just me that wants this, but apparently not. But I have had a lot of people say, in general, it's so different going to someone who has experience with wigs and hair loss to get your wig off them. Because I've had two people in particular who've said, I've gone to get wigs before. None of this was explained to me. It wasn't explained to me that I would need to replace the wig every year. It wasn't explained to me, how to look after a wig. It was just kind of sold to me, and like, I was gone. Nobody ever, I whipped out my measuring tape and she was like, what's that for? I was like, to measure your head. She's like, I've never had my head measured. So the feedback from specifically those two ladies was like, I have never gone through this process to get a wig. And I'm kind of going, well, how else are you meant to get a wig to fit you if you don't know your head measurements? And it kind of really put an emphasis on, yeah, I was right. Like, it is a massive difference to get a wig or get like the experience of someone who's gone through all that trial and error. And that's not at all knocking people who, might be in the wig industry who haven't had any hair loss issues at all. But I just feel those who've gone through the experience might have a little bit better understanding, and that's certainly the feedback that I'm getting from my clients at the minute. And I have one lady who kind of bought a wig straight away, and she just can't get over the difference of just having a hairline. Little things, because little things are the things that gets you in the long run. When I had like a wig that I couldn't tuck behind my ears, I was still trying to tuck it behind my ears, because I always tuck my hair behind my ears. Or ones that you can tie up, a lot of people don't like having the hair down around their faces, but with the other wigs you have no choice. And it's little things like that that make a massive improvement in your daily life. And I don't know if people realise that unless they've kind of gone through it. It's not, I suppose it is at the beginning, the big thing of losing your hair, but you kind of do get used to that after a certain amount of time. But even now, like, it still gets me, like, I can't kind of just throw my hair over and like tie it up in a bun. And that's something I always miss still. Now, there is ways you can get wigs that you can leave on your head and stuff that would be possible. But it's those, yeah, those little things that get you. And if you have a wig that you can still do everything, that's what I wanted, like something that feels like your own hair. You can tuck it behind your ears, you can throw it in a ponytail, you can do whatever you want with it. It just minimizes that little, like, I suppose, I don't even know what you call it, but you know, either way, like, I just get that little feeling of, oh, I miss my hair. I wish, like, why do I have to? That little, like, the pang of, like, oh, why did this have to happen to me? And it eliminates a lot of that when you have something that you really, really, really feel comfortable in. But yeah, to answer your question, that is the kind of feedback I've been getting so far, and that's exactly what I wanted. But I also get a lot of feedback of, I know I'm very inconsistent with my social media posts and I have to get better. But when I do post, I get a lot of feedback of, thank you so much. Like, I'm so glad you shared your story. You've really helped me. You've really had another actually girl I grew up with. She texted me saying, I've been showing my sister. She's 18. She's losing her hair. It's really helping her. And I'm kind of going, I didn't think this would impact anyone this way. So it's kind of given me a little bit of more of a confidence to go on with it, because when I posted one of my first videos, I actually said, look, if you know me and you're mortified, just scroll on, because so am I. And I know a lot of people might not care, but like, if I put out this video and some of you care, then even if it reaches one person, I've done my job, and I'll do another one and I'll do another one. And it is impacting people in the way that I'd hoped it would. And I never ever would have thought anybody would have kind of cared, or got that kind of impact from it. So it does give me a little bit extra confidence to go on, knowing that, like, I'm helping people in the same situation that I was in, and that if I had someone like me being like, it's okay to have no hair, who cares if you've no hair, it's only hair, like, we'll get a wig, we'll get whatever, we'll be fine, like, this is how you style a wig, this is how you stick a wig on, this is what's happening, this is where you should go. And it would have helped a lot. So that is, yeah, it's one of the other things I want to do with the wig brand, is not just have the wig brand, but also have, like, the support behind it that I would have wanted, or I would have needed, that I didn't have when I was trying to navigate everything. And that just ties in as well to having someone who has experienced the hair loss, because the amount of money I spent on wigs, on getting my eyebrows kind of microbladed that I didn't really like, and all of that stuff in general, if I had just had anyone that I could have been like, what did you do, or what do you think, it would have helped me navigate that a lot easier, and with a lot less money being wasted. But yeah, that's the main thing. But I genuinely, like, when I don't know if people believe me when I say this, but I actually am blown away by the feedback from just everything since I've started talking about it. Like, it was one of the most scary things I've ever done, being more open about it than just seeing, like, my family and my circle of friends. But it has been one of the most rewarding things, and it's given me like a not a, I don't want to say a purpose, obviously, like, I have kids and stuff like that, but it's given me something else, just to feel like I actually have, like, a little bit more worth to give than I actually thought I did. Because, like, I as I'm sure you know, but, like, for everyone else, I was doing a nursing degree, and I was nearly qualified in my nursing degree of six nearly months left, probably. And I came home during COVID, and then I found out I was pregnant. Obviously, I was here at Brandon, whatever. And I was like, well, I can't go back now, because I can't go back to England, and he was in the army, so he can't move. So I dropped out my nursing degree. I had Lily, went back into nursing here in Ireland, but I was getting no grants, I couldn't afford it, I was working, I had a little baby, and it just wasn't, like, feasible, so I dropped out again. So at that point in my life, I was like, this can't be, like, what's meant for me. And as I said, like, I would always have been a firm believer of what's meant for you won't pass you, but like, everything's going wrong now. I was very grateful, obviously, that I've had my family and we had our house and stuff like that, but in terms of, like, career wise, everything was a hurdle. And I was like, this can't be what I'm meant for, to be drop out of college. Like, all my brothers were in college, my friend was getting her master's and moving abroad, another one was getting into her nursing degree, and I was like, I just don't know what I'm meant to do with my life in general. And then after I had Lily, I kind of realized one day that I was standing there just like absolutely slating myself. I was like, I'm so ugly. And then I'd be like, I'm so fat. I'm bald. That's horrible. Like, I've no hair. I'm so useless. I dropped out of college. I'm so behind everyone in life, blah, blah, blah. And I don't even know what switched it one day. And I said, she's sitting there looking at me saying this. And that is going to become the little voice in her head as well. Because I think it was when everybody says, she's so like you. And they still say it, like, she's so like you. Even her personality, she's very, very like me. And I just realised one day, if I don't stop that, she's going to associate herself being like Mammy. And Mammy's ugly. And Mammy's, because that's all she's ever going to hear me say. And like the same for Tide, like, some people forget about the boys, but they often have like, self-image issues and stuff like that. So I didn't want to add on to all of that. So I just decided here one day, I was like, no, I'm not doing it anymore. And everything is positive. Now, obviously, I have some days where I'm like, oh my God, I actually look rough, but I don't say it in front of the kids. And if like even earlier when I went downstairs, she's like, Mammy, you look so fancy, because I've put it in her head that you're not pretty with makeup, you're pretty, or you're fancy with makeup. I'm putting on makeup because I want to be fancy, not because I want to be pretty. Or she'll, I have a Carmex on my keyring, and she'll put it on. She's like, Mammy, I'm so pretty. And I'm like, baby, you're always pretty. This just makes you a little bit fancy. It's to moisturize your lips. You're always pretty no matter what. And it kind of it spills over into other things. Whereas like if she's in trouble for something, not that she'd be in trouble, but like if she's after having like a little tantrum or something, she's able to gather herself and she'd be like, Mammy, I'm sorry, blah blah blah, but I'm always a good girl. And I'm like, yeah, of course you're always a good girl. And I have it in her head that like, even if she does naughty things, for want of a better word, doesn't make you a bad person or a bad girl. I don't like the terms good and bad girl, but anyways, where same thing with like the makeup. Just because you put something on doesn't make you any different than what you are. You're at your core, you're beautiful girl, oh my God, a beautiful girl, a pretty girl. Nothing ever changes that, no matter what you add or take away. And that is the biggest thing that I wanted to instill in my kids, and had to come from the top. How was I going to do that if I didn't believe it? Like, so I'm obviously still not 100% there. Like, I still have days where I am a little bit less confident than others. Like, I might one day be happy to go out with no wig on or whatever, and other days I'm like, actually no, like I don't really want to, whatever. But the biggest learning thing for me was, it's not a linear journey. I thought, once I get to a stage where I'm confident, that's it, and I'm going to be like this forever. But it's up and down all the time. There is days I'm like, I just want my hair back. There's other days where I'm like, I actually don't want it back at all. And it's just such an up and down journey. But the thing about it is now I don't let it affect me as much. So I'm like, right, this is fine. It's okay. Like, it's normal. Even like 8 or 9 years in, I'm like, I'm still feel like it's okay to feel these feelings. It's okay to be upset. It's still a big thing to process, but it just is important to kind of pull yourself up out of that and get on, and not let it affect you long term, because that's what happened the first time. And it literally, looking back now, it completely, like, I was definitely depressed, like, but I didn't think at the time I was, but it just completely ruins your life if you let it. And life is too short. It's far, far too short.
That's my motto all the time too. We're only here once as such. And what I hear seriously, like, in all of that, is you went through something that we don't expect to happen. It's the last thing that we can possibly think to happen. And in that isolation of, like, if I just knew one other person, if I just had someone to ask the questions to, especially someone who's done it before me, that thing of the support that you are offering now for people coming to you, for clients coming to you, in all those how-tos, that they're the things that make it up and bring it together, so that, as you say, it comes from the top down, that, you're not only feeling like you, but you're feeling like you for the people who matter, and with your daughter, and having that awareness moment of, God, she's hearing like what I'm saying. How am I saying things to myself? Like, I love that you said that at the Women Who Thrive Summit as well, you know, that it's, I'm not pretty, I'm fancy. And it's something I've taken away and have been thinking about the last couple of weeks and everything since then too. But it's the case of when you yourself recognize and know that is within me, you know, like it, the question of, you know, being worried about your relationship and what would happen there through it, you know, all those kind of things. If we question that, then everything else kind of goes into chaos, you know, as such. And I think as a woman, we do that anyway, you know, and especially as a young girl then as well. Like, as I say, you said there as well with school, sure, I was the same. Like, for me to look at myself, I was 17 going off to college, and you know yourself at the time, and for anyone listening who doesn't do that, in secondary school, in our secondary school anyway, there was a head girl, deputy head, student council, all those kind of setups within the school structure. And like, I thrived in school. I loved school. And I personally, I just always did. But I didn't realise how much of it actually was an escapism as opposed to
Really?
academic. Yeah. It was the case of, this is where I have a space to kind of be me. Like, I didn't get at the time, like, it was A1s and B1s and that, like I didn't get like the best leaving cert, and like my exams were never the best, but they were good. They were good enough, and I always enjoyed learning, like I still do. But it was the case then of, like, I remember us leaving cert year sitting, I think I shared this somewhere before, where we were kind of being told the percentages of dropout rates and that kind of thing. And I was like, oh yeah. And like, I wasn't even listening, because I was like, oh, that's never, like, that's not an option. Like, that's not me. That's not an option. And then suddenly you drop out, you defer the final year of your course, you're struggling to get through the degree. Like, I was like, who am I? What is this like? So, but I really just missed having a person. I wasn't being told exactly what to do. Because you kind of get swamped in the college stage of, like, people don't know you, all that kind of thing. Your friends are all everywhere. And it really kind of hit as a light bulb only recently for me that it's the connection. Like, it was, I missed the connection. It was suddenly the case of, I don't feel like me because I have nowhere to feel like I am me anywhere anymore. Like, where can I actually do well? Because I felt like I was kind of failing at everything, and I had been so used to, not like being the best, but like doing good enough, you know. And I don't know, I think when you shared earlier as well, like with the stress, and for anyone listening who maybe is kind of prone to that internal stress, as you say, Saoirse, that like not necessarily other people know, like nobody would have known how much I was struggling at the time, like in that 17, 18, 19, 20, like, you know, that early 20 phase. No one knew until I hit like a head at 22, and no one would have known outside of school what was happening at home, like when you'd leave and that as well. So it's that case of, I call it like the swan nearly, like, you know, where the swan's feet are going 90 underneath the water, and then up top it looks like everything's all together. I think it takes for something to happen to kind of click, and you do hear how it's affecting maybe someone else, or how much it has affected you. Like, as you say, you know, one catalyst there with that, with your self-talk for Lily, you know, of kind of being, okay, something has to change here. And then, you know, when you decide, you know, just shave it off, I'm going to take control. I want to feel like me. I want a wig that I can tie my hair up in. I can have mad colours. It made me think of, I don't know if it's a gift or a curse, but like, I've always been heavy chested. So it's the case of trying to find literally trying to find a bra at like 14 years of age that's not the exact same one that my granny wears. You know, that makes you feel odd, you know, at a young age. So as a young person at any age and stage, where you can just have, whether it's a clothing item, your own hair, or something outside of you that makes you feel like yourself. So sorry, there's just some of my thoughts in what I heard kind of there, Saoirse. And my question is like, I suppose with that mission side of things that you said you have now, and that kind of that sense of purpose of, okay, I'm doing something right here, and I'm helping other people, and you're thriving off of that. What is your big picture? I'd love to know, like, what do you really see kind of happening? Because I think everything you're doing is amazing. And as I say, from chatting at the end of last summer to now, the fact that we're on a podcast together, we've had the Women Who Thrive Summit together, and now you're going to be speaking in person in the Bunnaker Park Hotel in 2 weeks' time at home in front of people. Like, this is my story, this is what I do. From sending me a message in August being like, oh, I don't really want to get on camera. You know, sometimes it does just take doing it and building the muscle and all that kind of thing. So, like, what would you love to kind of come together in your whole mission that you're on?
I don't 100% have a certain goal. I have loads of different ideas. I've kind of come to terms with the fact, like, my life never goes to plan. I get curveballs in left, right, and centre, and what I have a plan in my head never happens. So I just go through I just wing life. But in terms of what I really like, the fundamental things I really want would be obviously my wig brand to be, you know, a thing where I could kind of get the word out, whatever. But more so than that, like, I think these types of stories resonate with people because even if it's not hair loss, somebody has got, as you said, somebody has gone through something similar, and it may not be hair loss, but you know, you can relate to that experience of nobody knew what I was feeling in that stage of my life, and nobody knew what I was feeling in that stage of life either. So more so than just, you know, having a successful business and obviously selling my wigs, I want to be someone who has a voice that resonates with people who are struggling in that period of life. Whether it's, you know, like, it doesn't have to be young people, it could be any age of any stage of life. Just to be like, you know, there's this community of people here, we're all like-minded, we all have similar struggles. Doesn't have to be the same. I know not everyone's going to experience hair loss, but I bet everyone, or at least most people, have the experience of not feeling themselves, or, you know, feeling like they've lost a part of themselves, or something's changed, or something's been taken away, and just feeling like alone and lost and behind in life. For people like that, just to kind of go, okay, well, it's not the end of the world. First of all, there's so many other people who are in the same situation and are afraid to talk out, and I have support out there. That is like one of my main things, just to have a little community of people who support each other and have that, like, I don't know, just have that sense of somewhere that they belong, that they can be themselves. They don't have to, you know, I suppose for the longest time I always felt like my self-worth was tied to how, like, useful I was, or, like, you know, I'm sure you remember me in school, I was terrible in school. I put that down a lot now to the fact that I had undiagnosed ADHD. I don't put it all down to the fact I was just a bit of a terror in school. But like that, I went from, when I was in primary school, I was very similar to you. I was like, you know, doing really well. I always had someone to kind of lead me, like the teacher. I was terrified the teacher ever gave it out to me. I was a very, very good student. And then I went into secondary school, and I don't know what hit me, what took over me, but I went the opposite. But as you said, in that stages of my teenage years, going up through secondary school, I was all like, from the outside in, I don't think anybody would have realised it either, but I was really, really struggling as well. Like, I was, you know, every day I was exhausted. I was kind of masking all my kind of weird little quirks that I now know are, you know, ADHD and stuff like that. But it was like, secondary school for me was exhausting completely. And as said, like, nobody would have known. So to have that kind of experience there, and then have it again in with my hair and stuff in my 20s, to be a voice for other people who are feeling like that, or not even a voice for people, but to be a voice that other people can listen to and be like, oh yeah, I get that, and oh my god, that's actually a bit helpful, or even if it's a small thing, like, and just to be that kind of, you know, platform, that information is there for people who need it, along with the supports of wigs and stuff like that. Like, if you go onto my website, you will see all my wigs, you'll see all my background information, but you'll also see all the supports and contact information for, Jigsaw for youth mental health, or like Samaritans, or like cancer care and stuff like that. Like, it's very easy for brands to forget there's an actual person behind what they're selling this product to. And the main thing I want to keep, like a fundamental part of my brand, is that person. Like, that person is the focus. I want to be able to support anybody that comes to me for anything like that, while also be able to give them like the kind of wigs and stuff they need or whatever else, but not to forget that. Like, and that's why I started my wig brand, was to help people in the same situation I was in. So going forward, like, I just want to keep that kind of vision for my brand intact, and anything else that comes on top of that is a bonus. So if I could, do like the speaking and kind of get more used to that, and like kind of reach more people with that, and kind of make the people realize that they're not on their own, that would be, part of my plan as well. And then down the line, when I'm able to, and I'm hopefully have the funding and stuff like that, I'd love to do some sort of I don't know, a program or something through my brand that would be for, like, I don't know, like free wigs, or like heavily reduced wigs for kids and teenagers. Because I know they have the Rapunzel Foundation, and I know there's the Little Princess Trust, but in terms of grants and stuff, as far as I know at the minute, like, it's all adults, the PRSI grant or the HSE and stuff like that. So I would love to kind of set up my own thing where I would be able to, take people in like that, and be able to give like heavily reduced wigs, or in general, like, be able to give heavily reduced wigs to people who need it, who might not qualify for the supports. But like, I don't have any crazy dreams. It's literally just to be able to give that back. Like, I feel like I have had this experience, I've gone through all the stuff, and there's no point me sitting here with all this knowledge and all this experience when I could be helping other people in the same situation. And if I save someone half the drama that I went through, that's all that I want from any of this. Like, but yeah, it's mainly just to make people realize they're not alone. And had someone just sat me down and said to me, "You're not alone," you know. And I suppose another thing as well is, a lot of people don't know what to say when somebody is going through a lot. Not even hair loss, if you tell someone you're like depressed, or you're, struggling with your mental health, a lot of people don't know what to say. And I don't know if that's an Irish thing, but a lot of people shy away from getting into that kind of, like, whereas I'd be the opposite. I'd be like, tell me, tell me your deepest darkest secrets kind of thing, and I'll, like, we'll have a little discussion. But I find a lot of people don't know, or somebody will try and make light of the situation, which is fine. Say if you're at the stage where you can kind of, make light of it as well. But a lot of people used to say to me, at least it's not, you're not very, very sick, or at least, you've got your eyebrows, or at least this, or at least that. And at the time, like, I didn't care. I was like, I don't care if at least I this, but like, this is a big deal for me at the minute, and I needed someone to recognize that. Similarly, I can't say the word. When I was, now when I tell people, there's nothing I hate more than going, I have alopecia, I fell out when I was 20, blah, 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 and someone going, "Oh God, like, you okay? It's so, like," and I know they mean well, but I don't like that at all. I'm not looking for sympathy. It makes me die inside. I would rather them be like, "Oh yeah, fair play to you, blah, blah, blah," and then I'm at that stage now where I'm like, yeah, no, I can make light of it, I can do whatever. But it's kind of realizing and figuring out where people are, and it's a big, I don't know, it's a big thing where I think that's the main reason why people don't say things. They're going to say, they're afraid they're going to say the wrong thing. But I think the most, like, somebody said to me when I was going through, like, the trenches, "What do you need? What do you need?" And I'm just like, you're the only person who's ever asked me that. And I was like, "I don't know, maybe a hug," like. And they were like, "Okay." And I was like, I've never had this before. It was really, really nice. And that is the first thing that when my clients come into me now, and they're kind of, I don't really know how to gauge them when they come in first, especially if I haven't met them before. And I'm like, well, what do you need from this consultation or from the meeting or whatever? What do you need? Do you want me to, you know, would you want me to, would we laugh about it? Do you want a hug? Would we make a cup of tea? You know, and it's just asking. Like, there's no harm in asking, because nobody can be expected to know or guess how you're feeling. And instead of being, okay, I'm not saying anything in case I upset that person, take control of the situation, because I guarantee the other person, unless they're at the stage where I am now, where I'm fine with it and everything like that, they don't know how they're feeling. And there's still some days that I don't know how I'm feeling. And Brandon could say to me some days, what's wrong with you? I'm like, I actually haven't a clue. But, you know, it's just that thing of, you know, well, what do you need? Just ask. And go from there, like, and it'll make a massive difference in anybody's life that is having any sort of kind of crisis, if you call it that.
I make no secret of the fact that my life changed completely when I reached out to Achievable Fitness 365. Jay is someone who not only gets the fitness side of things, he gets the human side of things. And in having someone who's walked the walk and talks the same thoughts has made me comfortable from the very get-go. Actually, that's a complete lie. I fell in the door and was sick on my first day, but kind of after that I got comfortable somewhere along the line. Jay knows people, he knows the industry, and he's someone who will know you better than you know yourself. The accountability that he holds, the standard that he sets for you and not for anyone else, is what brought me back into me originally, more than 4 years ago. If you're ready to begin your fitness journey and don't know where to reach out, try Jay. And as I say, my life has never been the same since. It's so true. The first thing I say in a coaching session, if it's a one-on-one, it's like, well, what do you want to focus on? Do you know? And it was the same kind of thing with me, where it was like, if I had known, you can berate yourselves over these things or you can go, oh, okay, great, I know it now, and I had to go through that to get to this point. Because what you said, Saoirse, in like growing your business to reach more people, to say, hey, like, I'm someone who's been where you are, and I want to shorten that for you, essentially, you know. And if doing more things like, as you say, coming onto this and speaking about it more and pushing out of your comfort zone and doing that is going to help somebody else, like that's why any business does what it does. And for anyone listening, you know, as I say, if there's anything at all that you're resonating with Saoirse, it is luxurylacewigs.com that you can find her products and reach out and see that support structure that is in place. Because sometimes it is just the case of, well, what do you actually want? Like, I never really had that space of saying what I wanted and someone kind of going, great, here's a plan. You know, I'd be like, oh, okay, but I don't have, you know, and they're like, okay, well, they're excuses. And I'm like, I didn't think like not having money was an excuse for not having time. And they're like, well, make time, you know, or find the money. I'm sure you find the money if you're, you know, going on a night out or whichever. And I was like, oh yeah, this is true, you know. And it was with the weight loss is always where my journey started, and that in that sense, it was like, oh, there's only a Saturday morning session left, and it started to become the thing of like, okay, I have to get up earlier on the Saturday, or there's only a 6 a.m. slot left of a Wednesday, and I'm not a morning person. I'm much better than I was, but I'm not a morning person. So, you know, if you want something, you are supported in doing it. But the difference I hear, Saoirse, with you as well is that, like, that acknowledgement of, I don't necessarily know what I'm going through even, like, but I know I need help. And I know that you've the answer. And even as that awareness kind of comes up, I view that I can come to. And like, I don't know what I would have done. Like, I'd have ran out the door if I knew there was, like, say, the coaching industry, I didn't know was a thing. When I found my fitness coach first and they were talking all about like personal development and their journey, I was like, oh my God, I was like, I've literally, how come there's no PT that talks like that? You know, and, or at least that I hadn't experienced at that point. Like, I hadn't experienced anyone who wasn't just telling you, do these squats, drink these shakes, kind of a thing. And like, my weight had always like yo-yoed and all that kind of thing. It wasn't until I heard someone share their story and like see kind of from where they were to where they are. And that's the that's the fun, that's the magic that I kind of hear you saying and everything there too. And I'm curious, Saoirse, like, what would you say to you and anyone listening? What would you say to you at the point of, is it worth getting the wig? You know, in those moments of, what would you love to have heard someone say even to you at the point when this was all happening first, and or the doctor say that maybe didn't start, and there's no blame or anything there, as you say, but what would have been the kind of thing that would have changed it and really shortened it for you then?
I think just to be told, first of all, it's okay, but you know, just there's no pressure to get over all this in the morning. Like, it's okay to be upset about it. It's okay to, like, take a week to be depressed. It's fine. Like, you need to process all that. You can't just shut it away. And a lot of it was kind of not, I don't want to say I was kind of like trying to be rushed over it, but a lot of people were trying to be like, it's fine, don't worry about it, just don't think about it, don't think about it, grand, fine, kind of thing, and kind of swept it away. Whereas I didn't, it kind of made it worse in the long run, because I was not processing the fact that my hair mightn't come back. So like all those kind of thoughts, all those emotions need to be processed. And it's so important to remember that no matter what happens, it is not the end of the world. I thought it was the end of the world. My hair was falling out and that was it. I thought it was the end of the world when my nursing degree fell apart and I was behind all my friends. I thought my life was over. I obviously adore my kids with my whole soul, but when I had them and all my other friends were going traveling, I was like, this is my life now until I die, basically. Like, I'm not going to accomplish anything. And I thought that was the end of the world. And humans in general just adapt to the situation they're in. And what feels like the end of the world today is not going to feel the same way, I guarantee you, next week or after a sleep or after a cup of tea, or, like, it's not, just because it's consuming you at the minute, it's not always going to be that way. And I probably wouldn't have believed it when you told me that. It's a lot of, you have to kind of go through your own stuff to realize it. But if I had had an outside voice saying that to me, it probably would have made me a little bit more motivated to say, okay, it's not always going to be this way. It's just like, it's hard to even word this right. It's one of those things where you don't believe what everyone is going to say or what everyone is saying until, like, you need to kind of start working at it. So I wouldn't have believed someone saying to me, you're going to be fine. You're going to give it you're going to be fine. You're grand. You pull yourself out of it. And I was kind of waiting for it to happen. And I'm like, it's not happening. It's not going to work. You're just, it's going to be like this forever. And I don't know what I was expecting, but I've done it in all my stages in life where I've been in a little kind of a funk, or I've been in a little bit of like depression or whatever. And I've been waiting for things to change, to be like, okay, life is getting better. And I think the thing that turned my life around for good and got me out of that kind of situation was, it's not going to change itself. And it was another thing, like when I was trying to lose weight, I was like, oh, I'll go to the gym. And then I was like, I'm still, and I'm like, it's not going to lose itself. Like, just because I have the gym membership, I have to go to the gym. Like, I have to eat healthy. It's not going to just happen on its own. And like, that was a shock to my system. I was like, what do you mean I have to actually do these things? Or like, I have to make a plan out, or I have to, do all these little bits to make my life better. And when I realized that I actively had to work at it, it was a lot of hard work. And I was like, oh God, like, but then I started to see the difference. And I was like, okay, like, we're getting somewhere now. But for years, I was just waiting for the universe or something to give me a good life. And I was like, okay, just a light bulb one day. I was like, I actually have to do this myself. So, and then I would be very like, I have to have everything to start. I have to, like, I go all out. So like, I wanted to start like taking pictures of my wigs. I bought like the best equipment, or like, I would always have it in my head. It's kind of like the dieting thing. Like, I'll start Monday. I'll do it on a Monday. Like, I can't start on a Friday. I have to start on a Monday. I have to have everything to start with. I have to have all the best bits. I have to have like the ideal situation, and when you're doing that, like, you're just wasting your life away. I was waiting, oh, I'll be happy when this, I'll be happy when that, oh, I'll start when this is ideal, or when that's ideal, or when I feel ready was another one. Like, I'm not ready to do that yet. Or imposter syndrome with me is a big thing. Like, I can't do that because, like, I'm not good enough to do that, or I don't know enough to do that. If you're waiting for the time that you feel you're good enough for, you're, in that stage of life where you're ready to do that, or you have all the fancy bits to, like, start a podcast, or, start a business, you're never going to start. The most important thing you need to do is realize, or even me sometimes still, you need to start, you need to do it yourself, and you need to start with what you have. You do not need fancy fitness coaches to lose weight. And start slowly. And the thing is, I don't know if it's just me and I get overwhelmed easily with my ADHD and stuff, but I would do everything at once and then I'd panic and do nothing. So the thing I found easiest, and it actually came from when I was doing skincare, I always say to my clients, when you're incorporating stuff into your skincare, do one at a time so you don't overload your skin and you might get a reaction, you don't know what one's after causing the reaction. And I was like, that's good advice. So I start small. Like with the weight loss, I joined the gym and everything, got overwhelmed, didn't go, cancelled the gym membership after never even going. And now I'm literally just, first thing I did was start to count my calories. Second thing I did, I started drinking 2 litres of water. Third thing I did, I started going for walks. I still haven't gone back to the gym because I don't actually have, like, the time, and I don't want to stress myself out, which is fine. So that's going on this little own little thing there. Then here I have, my business. I don't have everything I need to start my business, but I started it and I'm going, and, like, I don't want to go and put myself into debt either to, like, buy in all these wigs and have this big massive studio and stuff like that I can't afford. So even though, like, I have those dreams, like, I'm doing what I can, what I have at the minute, and I'm starting to realize now that, like, each aspect of my life is slowly improving gradually, and it's getting me to a place where I never ever thought I would be, rather than trying to change it all drastically and do all at once and getting overwhelmed and going back to the very beginning where I started. And if I had realized that little system before, that I didn't have to do it all at once, it would have made a massive difference to how quickly I was able to get to where I wanted to be in life. And, like, I don't think anyone ever gets really where they want to be in life, but if you can just stop, think about what you want, think about what are the steps I need to take, even write them down. Like, I'm a very, like, visual person, and, like, I'll forget things. So I have my notes, my phone, my notes, my phone is completely just overrun with random, like, stuff. But little goals, I suppose, just goal setting. But people always used to say to me, "Do you ever set your goals?" I'm like, no, no. But, like, it just one by one to take it off. And if you have, like you said, like, an end goal in your head, I always ask myself now, is that going to get me to where I want to go? And if it doesn't, I don't give it too much thought. If it does, then I'm like, okay, I put a little bit more thought into this and do it right. Like, but if anyone, and I always say this to people who kind of text me and they're like, oh, I'm not really a client, but I, wanted some advice, then, like, of course, like, my inbox is always open for those kind of people. But for people who text me, like, I don't know where to start, like, I don't know how, I'll never, like, be the way you are. Like, I thought the same. It's just about taking it literally one day at a time. And if you wake up today and have a really productive day, that's great. And if you wake up tomorrow and have a less productive day, it doesn't mean you're going backwards. And it took me a really, really long time to realize that. Like, the same thing, I suppose, ties in with weight loss. I kind of would do it. I'd have the mindset of, I would eat well, binge, and be like, it's over now. Have to keep, and I binge, put back all weight, and I'll be back to square one. And I would do the same in general in my life. Like, I'd go well, and then something would happen, and I'd say, forget about all now, look, back to square one, even though I wasn't. All I would have to do would be, like, acknowledge it for what it is, acknowledge it for the fact that it's a little blip, or, a binge day or whatever, and then you just go back into the mindset of, right, well, tomorrow's a new day, we'll see what tomorrow's like, instead of kind of trying to do massive big picture stuff all at once, because that's how I think, well, that's how I ran myself, completely burned myself out. And by doing it the opposite way, which I thought would take longer, it's actually advancing me to where I want to be much, much quicker.
I love that, Saoirse. And as as your sister, as such, with all those thoughts, I found that getting to the perfect life, or having everything done, you're right, like I don't think it exists, because it's in the right now, and it's really, if you can honestly look around and say that you are happy in your right now, in your present, then you're winning. And if there's something missing, if there's something kind of out of line, as I say, or that's really feeling like there's a gap, and it is in the feeling, that's where maybe a little bit of attention needs to go to just that area. It's not your whole life. And I always say in my story, I took the sledgehammer and like shattered all my foundations because there was one thing going wrong, but I didn't know which one thing it was. And in fairness, I absolutely had to do that. I had to completely change life as I knew it to kind of go, oh, okay, these are the pieces that work, and this is the things that are important to me, because I got to the point where I felt like, and I was people pleasing and answering to everyone else's visions and things they wanted of me, rather than what was actually something I wanted to do. And whether that's, as you say, the points where you've your children and you're not traveling with your friends, or going through the hair loss, or changing in your career, they're massive things, but they're all things that are for you, that's lined up in a way that's for you. And who knows, like maybe your travel days will be when everyone's sick and in bed in their 50s or 60s because they didn't do the work early on. I look at it like that now. It's kind of like, oh, okay, sometimes things that don't happen in the same timeline as everyone else is actually benefiting me right now, because I'm going to be doing something completely different to what they're doing later. So it's coming back into that moment. And if you're not happy with what's happening in the moment, that's where that bit of deep work or that bit of self-reflection comes in. And as you say, the case of, well, what can I do now? There's no point, like, yes, it does get better. Yes, the answers do come. Yes, it gets clearer, but you have to do something about it. And I was the same. It's like, oh, when is this all going to just like fix itself? And it's like, when I actually do something about it, it's going to. So seriously, I love all the wisdom. This has been such a valuable chat, and like, I'd love to keep going for another while. I know we have our mastermind of the Masters Who Thrive, in the Mullingar Park Hotel, as I say, on March 29th, where collectively we do learn, and it is in sharing recognizing the fact that we share the journey, recognizing the fact that it looks a little different to everybody, whether it's the alopecia, or whether it's with weight, or whether it's with something else that happens with family, whatever it might be. At some point where that connection gets a little lost, it's just about jumping in, someone maybe coming in and saying, or that click moment of, something has to change, or hey, what do you need? I love that. That's my big takeaway from today is what do you need? So Saoirse, what do you need right now? And for anyone listening, as I say, HaloLuxuryLaceWigs.com is where you'll find Saoirse, and check out her show notes for her personal profiles and her social medias, because I can see the help you're doing for people now, and we hear that in such a valuable way today, as in the wisdom, not just in this episode, but in all the work you're doing. And what do you need now to do your next thing?
In true fashion, I actually don't even know what I need. But I'm just excited. I suppose need anybody who feels like they could use a little bit of support, or anybody who feels that they want to reach out or might, benefit from me or my business or whatever. Absolutely under no obligation to buy off me, but if you want to reach out, that's what I need. Just do the first step and reach out. Not even to me, but in general, like if this chat just has helped someone to think like, oh, that actually sounds a little bit like me, just take the first step, because that's the most important thing. And once you do that, once you take action, a lot of things will fall into place. And the most important thing is just, as you said, you'll end up. I've actually seen a TikTok recently, and it was a woman, an older woman, saying she went her life away. Like, I'll be happy when this happens. I'll be happy when this happens. When I get this, I'll start this. And then all of a sudden she was like 70 or 80, and she was like, I wished my whole life away, and I never realized like this didn't matter. Those tiny little moments mattered. And it ties into a lot with the fact, like as you said there, I was like, my life's over. I'm never going to get traveling. I'm never blah. Why not? It's it's a mindset thing, because I was like, well, I have kids now, so like I'm never going to I'm never going to be able to tie my hair up. Why not? If it's not there, like, you can change it. That's why I said, like, I'll develop something. If it's not a thing, I'll make it a thing. I'm going to bring my kids traveling with me. Why not? Like, don't confine yourself to those little niggles of my life is over. Things are always going to be this way. Even if there is no supports, make them. Make that your purpose. There's always something there. There's always hope. There's always, a reason. And it's so important to remember that. Don't when your life away. Because I've done that up to this point. When I lose the weight, I'll wear the dress. When I'll do this. I was even putting off dress shopping for my wedding. When I lose weight, I'll go dress shopping. And you put it off and put it off and put it off. And then you get to the point where you realise, I'm 30. And up to this point, well, I suppose a few years ago, I went everything away. And it takes a lot to kind of pull it back and say, okay. And as you said, why not take a sledgehammer? If you're not happy with your life is too short. Like, break it all up. Like, get rid. I left my job, and I didn't leave the hospital, but I left the job that I didn't like. 30, even 50, 60. You're like, it's too young to be going, oh sure, this is my life now. When this happens, it'll be fine. When I retire, like, take the action now. And if you don't like the situation you're in, or you don't feel capable of taking the sledgehammer, just take the first step and say, like, this is what I need, to somebody else, and let them take the sledgehammer. Let them start, then you can take over and finish. Like, but yeah, life is far, far too short to be worried about these things. And if I'm of help to anyone to realize that, like, even one person, I did my job. And as I said, if you ever need anything, anyone ever needs anything, a chat, a laugh, bit of advice, doesn't have to be about hair loss, come and find me. Because that's my little community that I want to make, and that's all I need. I don't need anything major, but our little community and our, this kind of little space we're building doesn't work unless everybody talks. And that's the main thing. Like, just start, just take the first step.
So true. So true. And for any Irish friends listening, talking, sharing is a positive. I think we are breaking the norm. We've made huge progress, I think, with our generation in doing that. I think our young people coming behind us as well are much better than we were. They're quicker to reach out. Social media is great there. So if you are, someone listening as a young person in Ireland, like, keep doing the TikToks. It's great. Don't let anyone ever make you think that, you sharing it is cringe in any way, shape or form. And if you've never done it before and you have something that you want to share, do, because there's people who need to hear it. And if there's people like ourselves who you can connect or learn from, or you've got that question, do reach out. I love getting the message. Saoirse loves getting the message, and any of our guests on the podcast so far have always said the same as well. And Saoirse, you're officially wrapping season 2 of Action and Exploring on the Thinking of Me podcast, where we've had our guests who are either in exploration phases or have gone through phases of life where they explore and find what works for them, or they take the action to say, I'm taking control of this, I'm going to do something about it, and I'm going to help someone else in the process too. And I honestly mean it when I say thank you for this episode and for everything that you have been, are doing, and are going to do in making women feel like themselves again, regardless of something that's happened like that, with through the hair loss, through skin conditions, through everything, that there is someone there who knows. There's someone there who's going to tell you exactly what you need if you don't know what you need yourself. And the support is open-ended. And Gal, I'm looking forward to March 29th. I'm looking forward to the Park Hotel together. If anyone is in any way local, is in any way in Ireland, and even if you're not, if you're over the water listening to this, fly in. No, look, where we have our first in-person event, and you can go to thinkofmecoaching.com/masters to see myself, Saoirse, and our other guest speakers on the day. And I'll see you then, Saoirse. And for anyone listening, as I say, check out haloluxurylacewigs.com to find Saoirse and to find a way to reach out if you need something you don't even know you need yet.